Hello students, today we start with costing and the chapter what I take is marginal costing. The official name of the chapter is cost volume profit analysis, but commonly it is called as marginal costing. Some courses like say BMS may use only the word marginal costing, they may use both. So both are alternate names of the chapter which commonly is referred as marginal costing. Now guys, this chapter is a common chapter for T.Y.B.A.F, SEM 6, T.Y.B.Com SEM 6 as well as SY.BMS. Later on, maybe from next year, already NEP is implemented, National Education Policy. Next year it will be applicable to SY and then TY. So the semester to which this chapter is applicable may shuffle, but the concept has to be the same. Okay, so today we take the chapter marginal costing. Now BAF students and BMS students, of course this applies to BCom also, what I am going to say. This chapter is a very important chapter and a good thing from a student point of view, comparatively small, no journal entries, no ledger account, just simple formulas and calculation. But very interesting concept, and this is something which is used in practical life for taking important decisions. Now, when I use the word important decisions, BAF and BMS, after this, the next chapter what you all will be having is managerial decision making. Right now, it is not there for TY.B.Com. Now, that is nothing but you can say it is extension of marginal costing. If you know marginal costing, 50% or say 40 to 50% of the base of the next chapter is done. And if you don't know marginal costing, you cannot do the next chapter. So see to it that you are thorough with this, and I'm sure that all of you all are going to get the concept very clearly. If not, I'm there to clear your queries or doubts. But get the logic properly. It is a formula based chapter, but then there's a logic of formula which is very interesting. So please get the concept. In this session, I'm giving you the base of the chapter. What exactly do you mean by this? Classification of cost, important terms, and I'll be taking one basic sum and then wind up the session. Okay guys, chalo. Now understand the concept. I might take 20 odd minutes or maybe till half an hour to explain the theory, but it is very interesting. Don't get bored. पूरा lecture सुनो. Lecture के बाद तुम लोग याद करोगे that we got the concept very properly. Okay, चलो. Coming to the name of the chapter, marginal costing, which we also call it as cost volume profit analysis. Cost you know, खर्चा expenditure. Volume generally referred as units, and you all know what is profit. Okay, you all know what is profit. So what you have to do is you have to do an analysis of the cost of the product with reference to the units and with reference to the profit earned or loss incurred. What exactly you have to do? Gradually we are getting into that. Now, as I told you, the alternate name of the chapter is marginal costing. Now for the rest of the session, forget this name, cost volume profit analysis. Just keep in mind marginal costing. Now costing you all are studying, you all are TY.B.Com, you all are the first year, BMS you all are studying for the first time, BAF students you all are doing costing regular basis. So you all know what is costing. Now what do you mean by marginal costing? Marginal costing or marginal cost refers to the cost which is variable in nature. Marginal costing refers to the cost which is variable in nature. Now, what do you mean by variable? Back students, you all have done in the previous sem. Anyway, I'll explain for everybody's benefit. Variable cost is that cost of a product. Variable cost, sorry, variable cost is that cost of a product which varies or changes according to the level of output. Variable cost is that cost of the product which changes or varies according to the volume or the output. It depends upon number of units. I'll repeat again. Variable cost is that cost which changes according to the level of output, and the cost will vary, the total cost, depending upon the output. Zyada output, total cost zyada. Less output or less production, total cost come. Don't worry, I'll explain you in the form of examples. Okay. Now, sticking to the concept of this chapter only. When I say cost in this chapter will be classified into variable cost, and the second will be fixed cost. Cost will be in two parts. One is variable cost and the other is fixed. Now what I told you, variable cost is that cost which changes according to the level of output. Fixed cost will be that cost, which remains fixed in totality. It doesn't change according to the level of output. Don't worry, my example there. Fixed cost is that cost which remains fixed according to the period, and it has got nothing to do with output. Whether you produce less output, whether you produce more output, fixed cost ka amount will remain same unless and until it is mentioned in the question that it changes. Okay, so now see, variable cost, that which changes according to the output, and fixed cost is that which remains fixed irrespective of level of output. Now I'll give you an example. Say for example, you are producing a product. Let's say, चलो ये मेरे हाथ में duster है. Okay, you are manufacturing dusters. Okay, now when you manufacture in a factory, you need help of a worker. Okay, just to make the concept clear. So what will happen? You will pay the worker wages. Okay, you will pay the worker wages. Now, wages, if you pay on the basis of per unit, then it is treated as variable. Wages, if you pay on the basis of per unit, then it is variable. I'll just make the presentation more easy. Okay, wages. Okay, यहाँ पे मैं तुमको फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट, प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्सेप्ट वेरी केयरफुली. मुझे पता है तुम लोग बोलोगे ये बोर हो रहा है. अंडरस्टैंड द एग्जाम्पल, गेट द कॉन्सेप्ट. आगे का फुल चैप्टर यू फाइंड इट वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. आई एम पेइंग वेजेस टू अ वर्कर. डस्टर है, पर यूनिट वन वर्कर को per duster, say for example, I am paying 5 rupees. Okay, I am paying 5 rupees to each worker for one duster manufactured. Now listen, इसका मतलब ये है, this is number of dusters. Okay, this is the rate per duster, and this is total. Okay, number of dusters, rate per duster, and total. सिमिलर एग्जाम में फिक्स में दूंगा, अंडरस्टैंड दिस वेरी केयरफुली. नाउ सी, अगर वर्कर इन अ डे ही मेक्स 10 डस्टर्स, मैं उसको पर डस्टर 5 दूंगा. सो 10 इंटू 5 कितना हो गया? आई पेड इन 50 रुपीज फॉर द एंटायर डे. गेटिंग इट? वन डे में द वर्कर मैन्युफैक्चर 10 डस्टर्स, हर एक डस्टर का उसको 5 रुपया दिया तो हो गया 50. नाउ से फॉर एग्जाम्पल ही मैन्युफैक्चर्स 50 डस्टर है, इंटू 5 कितना हो गया? 250. गॉट इट? 50 इंटू 5 250. नाउ लेट्स से फॉर एग्जाम्पल ही मैन्युफैक्चर्स 200 डस्टर्स, 200 इंटू 5 कितना हो गया? 1000. Understand this example very carefully. Now I manufacture 500 dusters. 500 into 5, 2500. 500 into 5, 2500. Now थोड़ा मैं कम आता हूँ क्वांटिटी. I gave example of 10 dusters, 50, 200, 500. मैं थोड़ा रिड्यूस कर देता हूँ, इसको मैं करता हूँ 300. 5, so 300 into 5 कितना हो गया? 1500. Getting it? 300 into 5 gives you 1500. Clear with this? Now listen. Variable cost. What I told you? 5 rupees is the cost given to the worker for each duster manufactured. 5 rupees is the cost given to each worker for each duster manufactured. अभी देखो, 10 डस्टर का 50 हुआ, 50 डस्टर का 250 हुआ, 200 डस्टर्स का 1000, 500 का 2.5, 300 का हो गया 1500. Why? See here, as and when my quantity kept on increasing, my total cost also kept on increasing. जैसे मेरा क्वांटिटी कम हुआ, मेरा टोटल कॉस्ट भी कम हुआ. गेटिंग इट? आई रिपीट, एज एंड व्हेन मेरा क्वांटिटी बढ़ते गया, my quantity kept on increasing, my amount kept on increasing. जहां पे मेरा क्वांटिटी ड्रॉप हुआ, where my quantity reduced, there my total amount also reduced. Got it? So this is variable cost. Now keep this important point in mind. In case of variable cost, per unit is fixed. In case of variable cost, per unit is fixed. Total amount changes. In case of variable cost, per unit is fixed and total amount changes. See, total amount change होते गया, लेकिन per unit देखो, everywhere it is 5. Not only from the concept point of view, important objective point of view से भी. See, variable cost is that which changes, but कहाँ पे change होता है? टोटल में चेंज होता है, बट पर यूनिट फिक्स होता है. सो पर यूनिट वेरिएबल कॉस्ट इज ऑलवेज फिक्स्ड. याद रखना, वेरिएबल कॉस्ट पर यूनिट इज ऑलवेज फिक्स्ड एंड द टोटल अमाउंट चेंजेस अकॉर्डिंग टू यूनिट्स. यूनिट्स के हिसाब से इट विल कीप ऑन चेंजिंग. गेटिंग इट गाइस? गॉट इट? नाउ सिमिलर एग्जाम्पल से, मतलब not similar example, same way I will explain you fixed cost. Let me see the angle of the mobile. Yeah, it's fine. अभी देखो fixed cost. Now what I told you, fixed cost is that cost which remains fixed irrespective of level of output. Fixed cost is that cost which remains fixed irrespective of the level of output. Fixed cost is that cost जो fix होता है, उससे यूनिट से कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. Let's take an example. You have taken a factory on rent. Okay? You have taken a factory on rent, and say for example the rent what you're paying is say 60,000. Rent you're paying every month is 60,000. Got it? Now what I'll do, this 60,000 is my amount which is fixed. Now let's take units. चलो मैं यही लेता हूँ, number of dusters ही रखता हूँ, but I'll increase the quantity. Number of dusters, rent or rate per unit, and total. Okay, let's see. Now what I'll do, मैं थोड़ा units को change करता हूँ. I can keep same also, but वो sense नहीं बनेगा. I'll just make this. इसको मैं 1000 करता हूँ, 500 को 5000 करता हूँ, इसको 20,000 करता हूँ, इसको 50,000 करता हूँ, और इसको 30. 1 minute, I'll just, ठीक है. Got it? Now listen. Take this quantity as the base. Now fixed cost. Now listen. मैं कितना रेंट पे कर रहा हूं? How much rent I am paying? I am paying rent of 60,000 rupees. I am paying rent of 60,000 rupees. क्या है? Fixed. Now whether I manufacture 1,000 dusters, 5,000, 20, 50 or 30, whatever I manufacture, I have to pay fixed 60. Now understand this. Variable cost में क्या हुआ? Total change हुआ. यहां पे क्या होगा? मेरा total same रहेगा. So the total will remain same. यहां पे my total will remain the same. यहाँ पे my total remains the same. Got it? Now listen. ये total how you got? Number of dusters into rate per duster. Now this will be number of dusters into the rate per unit will give you this, but I don't have this. तो मैं क्या करूंगा? रिवर्स जाऊंगा, इसको इससे डिवाइड करूंगा. 1000 dusters के लिए I paid 60,000. So 60,000 divided by 1000, 60. 60,000 I paid for 5,000 dusters. तो कितना हो गया? 12. 60,000 I paid for 20,000 dusters. कितना हो गया? 3. 60,000 I paid for 50,000. I think it will give you 1 rupee 33 paisa. And this will give you 1 minute. Sorry, 1 rupee. 1 minute. I just get my calci. I just get my calci. Sorry, yeah. So 60,000 divided by 50,000, 1.20. Now listen. Now understand. Variable cost क्या था? Per unit fix, सब जगह 555 था. Fixed cost देखो, changes. So fixed cost में per unit changes. Fixed cost में per unit changes, and यहां पे क्या था? टोटल अमाउंट चेंजेस. यहां पे टोटल अमाउंट रिमेन्स फिक्स्ड. यहां पे टोटल अमाउंट remains fixed. So per unit changes and यहाँ पे the total amount remains fixed. Understand now? वापस देखो, वेरिएबल कॉस्ट पर यूनिट फिक्स्ड है, ये पर यूनिट चेंज होगा. यहां पे क्या था? एज एंड व्हेन द क्वांटिटी वेंट अप, टोटल कॉस्ट वेंट अप, ये सेम था. एज एंड व्हेन द क्वांटिटी केम डाउन, टोटल कॉस्ट केम डाउन, पर यूनिट वाज फिक्स. यहां पे देखो, टोटल अमाउंट सेम वेदर क्वांटिटी इज मोर और लेस, बट जैसे क्वांटिटी बढ़ेगा पर यूनिट कॉस्ट कम होगा, एंड अगर क्वांटिटी कम हुआ पर यूनिट कॉस्ट बढ़ गई. Therefore, I kept in the end a digit which is lower than the second last one. Getting it? And यहाँ पे the total amount fixed. So see here, per unit fixed in variable, total amount changes. यहाँ पे per unit changes, total amount remains fixed. This is the concept of fixed cost and variable cost. You all have to understand this carefully. ये लॉजिक के बिना ये चैप्टर नहीं कर सकते हो. यू मे गेट फुल मार्क्स, एग्जाम में पास होगे, बट आगे जाके ये तुमको प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में इंप्लीमेंट करना है. सो नाउ सी, बिकॉज ऑफ दिस देयर इज अ सिचुएशन वेयर फाइंडिंग आउट द टोटल कॉस्ट बिकम्स डिफिकल्ट. बिकॉज ऑफ दिस, बिकॉज देखो, part of the cost will be variable, part of the cost is fixed. So because of this, if in costing it becomes difficult sometimes to get the total cost, so for that convenience the concept of marginal costing was introduced. To consider this concept of cost into fixed and variable, where this is the situation, ascertainment of marginal cost of concept came into picture, and on the basis of this concept you have to do the analysis. And keep one thing in mind, very important, marginal costing is not a method of costing. Marginal costing is not a method. तुम्हारा process costing, contract costing, all these are methods. But marginal costing is not a method. It is a technique. It is a technique used by businessmen. It is a technique used by businessmen to take important business decisions. Marginal costing is not a method of costing. It is a technique which is used by businessmen to take important decisions. Decision मतलब आगे जाके आएगा. Suppose ये साल में मेरा प्रॉफिट 5 लाख है. नेक्स्ट ईयर आई वांट माय प्रॉफिट टू गो अप फ्रॉम 5 लाख टू 8 लाख. तो अगर मुझे 5 लाख से 8 लाख करना है तो मुझे कितना यूनिट्स बेचना चाहिए, तो आई विल गेट दिस प्रॉफिट. वेयर आई शुड कंट्रोल माय फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट, वेयर आई शुड जस्ट गिविंग एग्जांपल्स, क्या लेवल पे मुझे यूनिट्स बेचना चाहिए, सो आई गेट दैट डिजायर्ड लेवल ऑफ प्रॉफिट. कहां पे कंट्रोल करूं, प्रॉफिट कम, प्रॉफिट बढ़ेगा, कहां पे कंट्रोल करूं, लॉस कम होगा, एंड इफ रिक्वायर्ड इट गेट्स कन्वर्टेड इनटू प्रॉफिट. मैनेजरियल डिसीजन मेकिंग में ऑफ कोर्स बीकॉम स्टूडेंट्स यू ऑल डोंट हैव, बट से फॉर एग्जांपल यू आर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग 2 or 3 प्रोडक्ट्स, पता चला 1-2 में लॉस जा रहा है, तो किसको बंद करना है, किसको कंटिन्यू करना है. ऑल दीज टाइप ऑफ डिसीजंस. क्या लेवल पे आई विल ब्रेक इवन, you all know break even, I'm coming to that. It is that point where there is no profit, no loss. So what should be in my level where I break even, so that I know that इतना मेरा सेल हो गया, यहां से बढ़ेगा तो I start making profits. Such type of decisions and many more are to be done, and to take such decisions we need the help of marginal costing. जैसे मैंने स्टार्टिंग में बोला, BMS students and BAF students, you all have to get this concept very clearly. BCom students तुमको तो करना ही है, but BAF and BMS students, next chapter होगा managerial decision making, where this entire concept will be used and 50% of the chapter will be based on this only. Got it, guys? So this was the concept. And before I go to the next part, there is an alternate word for variable cost and fixed cost. Variable cost, ये मैंने पूरा theory और objective में दिया है, is also called as product cost. Variable cost is also called as product cost, and fixed cost is called as period cost. And fixed cost is called as period cost. Variable cost called as product cost, and fixed cost is called as variable cost. Keep this point in mind. Why product cost? It relates to the product. Product बढ़ेगा, cost बढ़ेगा. Product कम होगा, cost कम होगा. Therefore, product cost. Why period cost? Because it belongs to the period, nothing to do with the units. See here, every month का rent 60,000 है. Every month I have paid 60,000. Now whether you have produced 1,000, 5,000, 20,000, 50,000 और 30,000, रेंट मुझे फिक्स एक मंथ का भरना है 60,000. सो यहाँ पे मेरा पीरियड हो गया 1 मंथ, और ये 1 मंथ का पीरियड का कॉस्ट इज 60,000. Got it? So before I take the next part, I'll brush up again. Variable cost per unit is fixed. Total amount changes. It is also called as product cost. And in case of fixed cost, total amount remains same, per unit changes, and the alternate name for this is also period cost. Important for objectives. Got it, guys? Now, this was the basic explanation, and don't forget what I told you. Marginal costing is not a method, it is a technique used in costing for taking important business decisions. Technique used in costing for taking important business decisions. Now listen, there are few terms which are related to the practical part of this chapter. I will take one by one that term. Now what will happen if I explain the term one by one, then again I'll have to solve the sum. तो मैं क्या करूंगा? I have made a small question. Taking the base of that question, we will do all maximum possible calculations so that you get the concept properly. Getting it? So important terms, each and every term I'll discuss, but rather than only discussing, we will take the help of that sum. We will understand the concept, what the term is, and we will solve it as per the extra small question what I have made. So तुम्हारा understanding level एकदम perfect हो जाएगा. Okay? I'll just rub the board and I'll be back. Okay, guys. Now I have the question. If you see, the question is there in the description box. Okay, let's read the question, and keeping in mind the question, we will understand the important terms, keeping aside this question. At the same time, after understanding, we will solve it as per the information in the question. Let's see. Extra question given in the description box. From the following information, calculate contribution PV ratio break-even point in units and rupees and margin of safety in rupees and units. Selling price per unit given 30 rupees. Variable cost per unit is given 18. Fixed cost amount is 1,20,000 and number of units sold is 15,000. Okay, now see, they have told you to calculate 5 things. We'll be doing all of them, plus I may take extra towards the end. Let's take one by one. The first term which is important is contribution. The first sum which is important here is contribution. See it properly? Yeah, okay. Now, what do you mean by contribution? Contribution is nothing but the excess of variable cost. The excess of variable cost as compared to sales. In short, whatever is my selling price as compared to variable cost, the difference is my contribution. In terms of accounting equation, contribution is equal to sales minus variable cost. The difference between the selling price per unit or the total sales minus the variable cost per unit or the total variable cost is contribution. This you can do in terms of total as well as per unit, but it is always advisable when the data, the selling price and the cost per unit is given, you always take it on the basis of per unit. Okay, you always take it on the basis of per unit. So contribution is sales minus variable cost. Let's calculate and then I'll show another logic why the word contribution is used. Now कितना है मेरा selling price 30 rupees, variable cost is 80. So now if I substitute 30 minus 80, so my contribution becomes 12 per unit. So my contribution becomes 12 per unit. So what is contribution? The difference between selling price and variable cost. Sales minus variable cost is my contribution. In this case, it is 12 per unit. Why we use the word contribution? Because this will contribute to get your profit and recovering your fixed cost. अभी क्या डिस्कस किया थोड़ी देर पहले? Cost in this chapter is in two parts, fixed and variable. Every businessman does business to make profit. So ये तो variable cost है. Contribution में से जब भी हम लोग fixed cost minus करेंगे, आगे लिखेंगे, that will give me profit. So the reason the word used is contribution. It contributes to earnings of profit and recovery of fixed costs. कैसे? We will see in some time. Got it? So this was contribution. Now see guys, there is an alternate formula of contribution. आगे जाके हम use करेंगे. At this stage I am not showing it, but when I come towards the end of this session, that time I'll show you. Because अभी मैं बताऊंगा तो तुमको थोड़ा confusion हो जाएगा. So let me come to the end. That time I'll show you. Okay. So the first term was contribution. Second, the second term used is profit volume ratio, which we commonly call it as PV ratio. Second term used is profit volume ratio, which we call it as PV ratio. Now the formula for PV ratio is equal to, I'll write it here, PV ratio is equal to contribution upon sales into 100. PV ratio is equal to contribution upon sales into 100. PV ratio is equal to contribution upon sales into 100. Now see, substituting. As I told you, here you can take total amount. Here also you can take total amount. If you are taking per unit here also take per unit. If you are taking total amount, here also you take total amount. यहाँ पे the answer, because you have multiplied by 100, the final answer will be expressed in terms of percentage. The final answer will be expressed in terms of percentage. So now contribution 12 and selling price 30. So 12 divided by 30 into 100 will give me my contribution. 30 का 10% is 3, 4 3s are 12. Therefore, my PV ratio, profit volume ratio is 40%. My profit volume ratio is 40%. PV ratio is 40%. PV ratio is nothing but it shows the relationship of contribution to sales. PV ratio is the ratio which shows proportion of contribution to sales. So PV ratio is equal to contribution upon sales into 100. PV ratio is equal to contribution upon sales into 100. Profit volume ratio in this case will be 40%. Now here there is an alternate formula of PV ratio, but that formula comes into picture when there is no specific information given for variable cost. Right now we are just focusing on the basic of the chapter, so I am not getting into that. Okay, to those who are going to study the full chapter with me, towards the end वो आएगा, अभी मैं दिखाऊंगा तो confusion create होगा. So today just let's focus on pure basic. So first term was contribution, second was PV ratio. Third, you all know it very well. You all have done this in other subjects also. Eco में भी पढ़ा होगा. Some time back also I explained you. The third term is break even point, which we call it as BEP. Let me check the reflection of the light. Yeah. The third term is break even point. BEP. What is break even point? Break even point is that point. Break even point is that point where there is neither a profit nor a loss. The company doesn't make a single rupee ka profit nor incurs a single rupee ka loss. Break even point is that point where the company doesn't earn single rupee ka profit nor incurs single amount of loss. It is that point where my sales is equal to total cost. Obvious है ना, अगर मेरा पूरे साल का फिक्स कॉस्ट वेरिएबल कॉस्ट मिला के 10 लाख है एंड सेल्स भी मेरा 10 लाख है, सो 10 लाख माइनस 10 लाख, आंसर इज जीरो. नॉर अ सिंगल रुपी का प्रॉफिट नॉर अ सिंगल रुपी का लॉस. सो इट इज ऑल्सो दैट लेवल वेयर माई सेल्स, actual total sales is equal to the total cost. That is break even point. Now see, when you calculate break even point now, यहाँ पे break even point can be calculated in two ways. यहाँ पे break even point can be calculated in two ways. First, it will be in terms of rupees. So I split it in two parts. Break even point in rupees. Sorry, मेरा थोड़ा drawing और craft weak है. मेरा rupees का sign थोड़ा odd है. So this is Indian rupees का sign. Okay. Break even point in rupees. Now see the formula for this. Break even point in rupees is equal to fixed cost upon PV ratio. Break even point के लिए you need the fixed cost which is given in the question and you need a PV ratio which is calculated. अभी देखो क्वेश्चन में फिक्स कॉस्ट क्या दिया, we understood ना fixed cost will be fixed in terms of totality. So my fixed cost is 1,20,000. My fixed cost is 1,20,000 और पीवी रेशियो कितना है 40% ना गाइस, रिमेंबर just don't write 40, write 40%, because if you write 40 you'll sorry guys, just couple of minutes के लिए mic off हो गया. I'll just repeat again. Break even point is the point which is that point where there is no profit, no loss. The amount of sales is equal to the total cost. That means fixed cost plus variable cost जो हमारा total cost है, that and your sales is same. That is the reason no profit, no loss. तो यहाँ पे fixed cost upon PV ratio, my fixed cost is 1,20,000 upon my PV ratio, that is 40%. So 1,20,000 divided by 40%, my break even point is rupees 3 lakhs. My break even point is rupees 3 lakh. That means when I sell goods worth 3 lakhs, I know there is no profit, no loss. And what I told you, marginal costing is a technique used for important business decision. So मुझे next year या current year में पता है, अगर if I want to start making profits, my sale has to be 3 lakhs. If I want to make profits, my sale has to be 3 lakhs. एक बार मैंने 3 लाख का सेल क्रॉस कर दिया, उसके बाद I keep on earning profit. One important example for taking business decision. So break even point is that point where there is no profit, no loss. Okay. Next, same thing, ये जो हमने रुपीज में किया, the same thing we will do in units. So break even point in units. Now the formula may the numerator will remain the same. Okay, let's see what will be the formula. My formula will be break even point in units is equal to fixed costs upon contribution per unit. It will be fixed cost upon contribution per unit. Numerator same रहेगा, but PV ratio will be replaced by contribution. देखो क्यों? Because how we got PV ratio? We got PV ratio on the basis of contribution only. Now let's calculate and then see the interesting thing. Of course, very basic. कितना है मेरा fixed cost? 1,20,000. What is the contribution I got per unit? 12. Okay, 1,20,000 is my fixed cost. My contribution per unit is 12. So 1,20,000 divided by 12 gives you 10,000. Therefore, my break even point is 10,000 units. So my break even point is 10,000 units. That means if I sell 10,000 units, no profit, no loss. Now guys, compare karo. If I sell 3 lakh ka goods, amount is 3 lakhs, break even. Units are 10,000, break even. Cross check karo. 3 lakh divided by 10,000 कितना आता है 30 selling price. So my selling price per unit is 30. और other way cross check करो. 10,000 units I am selling. Each unit I am selling for 30 rupees. 10,000 into 30 कितना हो गया 3 lakhs. So my amount is 3 lakhs. So break even point in units and rupees. Exam में they will mention यूनिट्स पूछा तो खाली यूनिट्स, अमाउंट पूछा तो खाली अमाउंट, and if nothing is mentioned and you have the per unit data, then calculate total amount as well as units. If you have per unit data, calculate the total amount as well as units. Got it? So this is the way you will do. So this was a break even point. Okay, थोड़ा मैं एंगल शिफ्ट करता हूं before I just take the next part. Now I come to the next part. थोड़ा मैं just adjust this. Yeah. Now the next part what I take here is fourth, margin of safety, which we call it as MOS. Margin of safety, which we call it as MOS. Now see, what do you mean by margin of safety? MOS. The word says margin and safety. That means that margin where you're safe. I'm explaining you very logically. Margin of safety means that margin where you are safe. Now this can be calculated in terms of rupees as well as units. Now here there are two different formulas. अभी ब्रेक इवन में कैसा था, यूनिट्स एंड रुपीस का फॉर्मूला अलग था, यहां पे इट विल बी द सेम. सो सी व्हाट यू विल डू, आई जस्ट शो यू. Margin of safety is equal to actual or total sales, minus break even sales. Actual or total sales minus break even sales. Margin of safety is actual or total sales minus break even sales. Now see, let me substitute, then I'll show you the logic. Actual sales मेरा कितना है, देखो क्वेश्चन में they have given you the number of units. How many units are sold? 15,000. So 15,000 units sold. I am selling each unit for how many rupees? Selling price कितना है? 30. So 15,000 into 30, my actual sales is 4,50,000. 15,000 into 30, my actual sales is 4,50,000. Break even sales कितना है? 3 lakhs. Break even sales is 3 lakhs. Therefore, my margin of safety is equal to rupees 1,50,000. My margin of safety is equal to rupees 1,50,000. Now listen. 1,50,000 है. Why we call margin? What I told you. Break even sales 3 lakh है. Once I start selling goods above 3 lakhs, I start making profit. 3 lakh is that point where there is no profit, no loss. 3 लाख के ऊपर सेल गया प्रॉफिट, 3 लाख के नीचे सेल गया लॉस. सो ये 450 है. दैट मीन्स द कंपनी इज मेकिंग प्रॉफिट्स. अगर तुम्हारा सेल्स, एक्चुअल सेल्स और टोटल सेल्स इज मोर देन द ब्रेक इवन सेल्स, दैट मीन्स यू आर मेकिंग प्रॉफिट. सो 4.5 लाख मतलब आई एम मेकिंग प्रॉफिट. ब्रेक इवन कितना है? 3 लाख. 3 लाख के ऊपर 450 कितना हो गया? 150. मतलब माई ब्रेक इवन सेल्स इज 3 लाख, एक्चुअल इज 450, इसका डिफरेंस इज 150. दैट मीन्स 3 लाख के ऊपर, अंडरस्टैंड द लॉजिक, अबाउ 3 lakhs आई हैव अ मार्जिन ऑफ 150. सो मुझे पता है अगर मेरा सेल्स यहां से और 1,50,000 गिरता है, इफ इट फॉल्स बाय 150, then also I'm safe. I will not go into losses. That is the logic of margin. Getting it? I know my break even sales is 3 lakh. My actual is 450. तो 3 लाख के ऊपर another 150 का सेल है. That is the cushion, that is the margin. अगर मेरा सेल्स ये लेवल से 150 भी कम होता है, फिर भी मैं लॉस में नहीं जाऊंगा. That is a common easy explanation. People can explain in a different way, but this is my logic to make it the concept much clear. Got it? So margin of safety is that margin which you have over and above the break even sales, where even if you come down till the break even sales, you will not go into losses. And the same thing can be calculated in terms of units, where the formula will be same formula. I just make it short. पूछा है वो लोग ने MOS in units. This was rupees. It will be the same only. Actual sales, but only thing is यहां पे हमने अमाउंट लिया है, यहां पे यूनिट्स लोगे. अमाउंट लिया है, यूनिट्स लोगे. सेम फॉर्मूला. चलो मैं वापस लिख देता हूं. एक्चुअल सेल्स, टोटल सेल्स, actual sales is also called as total, minus break even sales. So break even sales is in units, this is also units. अभी देखो एक्चुअल सेल्स यूनिट्स कितना है, क्वेश्चन में दिया है. एक्चुअल सेल्स इज 15,000 माइनस ब्रेक इवन सेल्स. कितना है मेरा ब्रेक इवन सेल्स इन यूनिट्स? 10,000. सो 15,000 minus 10,000, therefore your margin of safety is 5,000 units. Therefore your margin of safety is 5,000 units. अभी चेक कर लो. 1 unit you are selling it for 30 rupees. 5,000 into 30, 150. What you did for break even point exactly the same. Getting this guys? देखो मैं तुमको ओपनली बोल रहा हूँ, प्लीज गेट द लॉजिक प्रॉपरली. ये लॉजिक समझ में आया, आगे का चैप्टर पूरा इजी लगेगा. बिना लॉजिक भी शायद यू कैन स्कोर मार्क्स, बट इफ यू डू इट लॉजिकली, आगे जाके कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में यू विल बी practically capable of taking good decisions provided your concept is clear. So margin of safety 1,50,000 in rupees and amount में 5,000 units. Now guys, ये सम में नहीं है. Right now I cannot do, but I'll show you later on. There's an alternate formula. Margin of safety का दूसरा फॉर्मूला है प्रॉफिट अपॉन पीवी रेशियो. मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी का दूसरा फॉर्मूला इज प्रॉफिट अपॉन पीवी रेशियो. राइट नाउ आई डोंट हैव द प्रॉफिट. लेट्स सी व्हाट दैट नंबर विल जाएगा तो बट सो मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी इज प्रॉफिट अपॉन पीवी रेशियो. क्लियर गाइस? नाउ there is one concept that is format of marginal costing that now I will discuss with you. And this is in the financial. Understand this format of marginal costing. That when it comes to contribution, there's an alternate formula I will show you. Now, what is format of hand cost? Nothing very simple. But yeah, sales minus variable cost. Okay, gives me contribution. This one also sales minus variable cost gives me contribution, and from the contribution, I will deduct fixed cost. So that gives me my profit. Sales minus variable cost gives me contribution, and from the contribution, we deduct fixed cost that gives me profit. But when you do this, it is equation in terms of total amount and not units. Now, see, sales 15,000 into 30 again is 15,000 into 30, that is 4,50,000. Now this is very careful. अगर sales 15,000 है तो मेरा variable cost 15,000 होना चाहिए. So units of variable cost also has to be 15. What is my variable cost per unit? 15. So 15,000 into 80 gives me 2,70,000.